Okay, in last video we have configured or set up our routes correctly, and this video will configure load balance. Okay, load balancing is one of the features or the basic features of NetScaler. So first thing we should do, although I do this step before setting up static routes, because that provides extra security, as I said earlier. So in real world environment, I would say you first enable these features, including application firewall and NetScaler gateway. Load balancing is also one of the basic features in it, so I would like to enable all of them, because one way or another I will be using it. And once it's enabled, now we need to configure load balance. Okay, load balancing, first step is we need to configure a virtual server. And load balancing virtual server, I would say, let's say ITSense web server or virtual server. Let's see, virtual server of type HTTP, IP address, I will assign 172.16.21 and let's say 191 on port 80. And this virtual server has been created. As you can see, the virtual server has been created. It's using this virtual IP or VIP of 172.16.21.199. But this virtual server, it's not bound to any service yet. Like in this scenario, this virtual server is right here on NetScaler. It's not bound to these web servers, so that it can load balance them. And that's our next step. So let's go here, service binding. We select a service. We don't have anything to select yet, so we will create one. And service number 1 is, let's say, web server 1. It's a new server I'm creating for this service, and the IP address is 10.10.10.101. Done. And let's add another one, web server 2, 10.10.10.102. Bind it. Oh, sorry, I did not bind the first one. Okay, and now let's create the third one. Service name web server 3, and I'm defining a new server for HTTP service. 10.10.10.102. Done. As you can see, now all these servers or service, all three services, web server 1, web server 2, and web server 3, is bind with my virtual server. And click OK. Done. Let's refresh it. Okay, and the service is up. Now, another question: what kind of load balancing it will do? Okay, let me just show you those algorithms which are there, or methods. I call it algorithm or methods. If you go to the method option, by default it's doing the based on least number of connection. whichever server has the least number of connections, it will redirect user request on that server. You may have the least bandwidth or least response time or source IP hash, source IP destination hash. All sorts of methods are there. Round robin is one of them. So I'll select round robin, let's say, and click OK, and done. So that's it. Our virtual server is ready to load balance our web services based on 3 services. So let's test it out. So let me move to the client computer, and I will fire up a browser. And I'll say 172.16.21.199, and here it goes. It goes to web server 1. So if I refresh web server 2, web server 3, you see that? Web server 1, web server 2, web server 3. Refresh web server 1, refresh web server 2, refresh web server 3. Why is that? Because that's what round robin is all about, isn't it? It's taking turns by balancing the load between all these 3 services. So one time I'll be served by web server 1, second time web server 2, web server 3. So that's how load balancing works, and that's how our load balancing is working perfectly fine, which is good news. And great, we have tested the load balancing. Congratulations.